It's 90.3 FM, KEXP in Seattle. I'm Kevin Cole, and joining me in the live room, it's Chris. Take it away.
Let's for the whole song. Just pretend that all along I've been there, infectious. That's what I dream of when penning these verses. But no, you would just demure, 'cause my nerve passes for rude. The warmth that now exudes through your lips as you start to obsess on. Now show me how you get to hum along. When you play me loud, baby. When you play me fast. Focus on my voice and let go, let go. 'Cause when you play me loud, baby, we are making love. Play me once again and let go, let go. Give a glance you couldn't see. Now you hear what's left of me through a car, the radio. Bits and pieces fell apart. Go, there's a pride in my singing, thickness of a new skin. I am done with belonging. I diffuse every time the story's out, and I wound every time I sit to shout. When you play me loud, when you play me fast, focus on my voice and let go, let go. 'Cause when you play me loud, baby, we are making love. Play me once again and let go, let go. Oh yes. Tu me mets encore, 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 encore. Oh baby, c'est comme si on s'aimait. Oh baby, c'est comme si on s'aimait. Oh oui, c'est comme si on s'aimait. Oh oh, oh oh, oh oh, oh yeah. C'est comme si on s'aimait. 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 Oh, oh baby, yeah. Oh baby, yeah. Oh,
Chris.
I'm gone in a flick, but back in a second. Exotic skin, rush for no reason. Boys are loading their arms, skill gasp with envy. But they mimicking endlessly. Same old sadness in small lumps on my jaw. For lusting after is the usual picture. May you go come, bird, did I under the spur? Fingers angrily sunk on the jugular, then girlfriend. Don't feel like a girlfriend. might be your lover. Oh no. Yes sir, I am what for. I happen to make fame in the lake. Let's see now how fast you breathing and how long this will take. So used to pass by me, think they are baffling liar. What is you? You didn't even taste much better. What? Came back steaming in sweat in the morning. I muscled in for I wanted to hold him. Then thought to let those buttons wedge through. What is me? What is you? What is you? No! Oh my girlfriend. Oh no, 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 no. Lover. Oh baby, oh. Oh baby girlfriend. I don't feel like a girlfriend, no. Oh baby lover. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Touché, 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 touché. Touche, touche. Touché, 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 touché. Touche, touché. Touché, 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 touché. Touché, touché, touché. Baby, baby, baby. Touché, touché, baby, baby, baby. Touché, touché, baby, baby, baby. Oh no, touché, touché, touché. Oh no, touché, 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 touché.
Ah, man, that is such a jam. That is Girlfriend.
Thank you.
It's Chris live on KEXP from the album Chris. You heard Girlfriend and Come. And man, welcome to KEXP.
Thank you so much for having us here.
It is so great having you here. The album is fantastic.
Merci.
Came out in September, and you released the album Chris. You also, at that time, adopted a new name, Chris, as opposed to Christine and the Queens.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something liberating? Is there a freedom in shedding one name for another?
Yeah, there is definitely something liberating in the idea that you keep on choosing. Because I think in the art space there is a softness when you choose to exist the way you want to exist. So I think me choosing a stage name 8 years ago with Christine was the first really liberating choice I made. And actually Chris is more like, of course it's a bit shedding some skin away because it's lighter, but it's also the nickname of Christine. It's like the shorter version, the more efficient way to call me abruptly if you want. There is a sense of weird intimacy that comes with the nickname I really loved.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get to know somebody a certain amount of time or feel comfortable when in personal relationships when you shift to calling them by their nickname.
Right, yeah.
And then that designates sort of a different moment in that relationship.
Exactly. It was exactly about that also. I think for me the second album was a bit like, you can even see in the album artwork, there is something a bit more frontal, there is eye contact, and it's me trying to pull the listener a bit closer to me, you know, and it felt more like a way to shield myself even less and to actually expose myself a bit more. And
I think listeners, your fans, really appreciate that.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean they very much connect with you personally. I think the messages of the song. So is the album then a new chapter for you creatively and personally?
Yeah, I think it was. The album is a resonance of a new moment. It almost feels like a picture of where I'm at now, and I mean, you can see there are like the same obsessions from the first to the second record. There are like obvious links, but I think this Chris is so much more about eroticism and desire, and some kind of experimentation that I couldn't have done on Chaleur Humaine. Like the first record, Christine and the Queens, the first record was more like a dreamer album. It feels like a chamber record. and I'm dreaming a lot, and I'm longing to relate. And the second one, I mean, even if I fail, there is a sense of me being out in the open and trying to relate by grabbing people, touching them, being touched, and so there is a sense of physicality that is way more blatant for me. And because in my life it became more like that also. I kind of felt more comfortable to try.
Yeah, that's reflected in the lyrics, but definitely in the music as well, because the music is much more dancey, I guess, right?
Definitely.
Poppy and raw in that way.
Yeah.
How much risk is there in sort of a name change?
There is a risk factor, yeah. But
I mean, did you think about that? Did that concern you at all?
But it didn't concern me. Mainly, I wanted to. It excited me.
Yeah.
Being fresh, I'm stammering. But yeah, there was a sense of... I do love the idea of taking risks. Actually, I think it's a huge part of what I do. I don't know if it's obvious for people, but when I began with Christine and the Queens, 6 years ago, I was doing like openings for other artists, and I had just my laptop with me, and I was just a bit, I was throwing myself out a bit, and I was dancing a lot in France, actually, when it was not so fashionable to dance, and people were like, how come you feel so comfortable exposing yourself that much? And I was like, I do like the risk of it.
Yeah.
And I think there is a sense of, it was not a gimmick also, it felt natural to try to shed a bit of that skin. It felt comfortable. I'd rather take a risk if it's artistically coherent than just trying to preserve something that worked, And there was a sense of like, it feels like I have to do that, so let's try it. But there was definitely a risk of losing some people, probably.
Yeah, there's a great David Bowie quote where he gives advice to young artists, and he talks about how artists should never actually play to their audience or play to the gallery. They should always be putting themselves in a position where they feel like they're in the deep end, about ready to drown, perhaps, so, in a scary moment, because that's that moment where you are inspired to create.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to agree with Bowie, but on that one, it feels really relevant. There is a sense of danger that I really love, and it's interesting because at some point on the first record, I was lucky enough to have that record having a fantastic life that was beyond expectations, because I didn't think of doing anything mainstream or commercial, because I don't think it's like mathematic and you cannot think of it.
Yeah, you weren't calculated, and you were making music. Nobody knew who you were, really.
Yeah, and I think people on the second record maybe sometimes expected me to preserve that, or maybe to dwell on that, or maybe take that what worked and reproduce it. And I was like, actually, it doesn't make any sense to me. There is a sense of exploration. So, I mean, it was a risk, but it's paying off because I enjoy taking it.
Yeah.
Makes me feel alive.
And that's what it's all about. That's what listeners feel too. They pick up on that. And you talk about dancing when it wasn't fashionable, but that's. Do you feel that when you go there, for example, with dancing, then that gives people an opportunity to do it themselves? Like then they can be free and they can be liberated. They get inspired.
I mean, that would be wonderful. I do love the idea to be a hint of something.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can be, but the idea of, unlocking something somewhere. And maybe, I mean, I do believe in dance as a contagious factor, as something that calls for like more liberation and warmth. I definitely do use that dancing for myself like that. There is a sense of acceptance also. Well,
when you dance, you're incredibly powerful. It's almost hard to imagine the songs without the performance in some ways, which may speak to your background in theater.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for that. But, even when I write the track, sometimes I get obsessed with the performance right away in the writing.
Yeah.
A song like Doesn't Matter, for example, that I wrote, I immediately thought it would be a duet with a dancer. And so thinking of it right away in the writing made me finish the song in a certain way. So there is a sense of, for me, the performance is a moment of truth also. So it's true that, I love recording.
So in one way, then the video is an actualization of what you were thinking of when you were writing it, right?
Yeah.
As a dance duet.
Yeah, exactly.
The video is really beautiful.
Thank you.
So the choreography, the presentation of your songs and your shows in the past have been really powerful. there's a song on the album that was inspired by an actual painting, Francisco Goya painting. Can you talk a bit about the intersection of music and art and fine art?
I think there is a sense of dialogue that is constant to me, and it comes from theater. Because before I was even thinking of being a singer, I wanted to be a stage director, and there was a way to not choose between many disciplines, and like visual arts and dance and words and music, and there was a sense of everything was bleeding into disciplines were bleeding into each other and actually solidifying themselves even more. And there is a sense of that when I do write music. I mean, music is at the core because I discovered the music writing as a fantastic light and a way to relate and to talk that was wonderful in my life, and it stays on its own if I want. But there is a sense of, a song like Goya Soda, for example, was heavily, inspired by that painting of Goya, which is Saturn eating his own children.
That is a freaky painting, by the way.
It's a freaky painting. But also a painting that can evolve with you and resonates with you for many different reasons. If you go mad at some point, you can see madness.
Oh, for sure.
if you're craving with lust, you can see dangerous lust in it. And at that point in my life, that Goya painting was like made me think of how you can get crazy out of desire, and you don't understand that desire, and it pours out of you, and you're like just helpless.
Yeah, that's the animal in us.
Exactly, yeah.
It takes over the rationale. Yeah. You've attributed a lot of your confidence over the last, 6 years or so since making music and evolving as an artist. You attribute a lot of that confidence that you've gained to your music that's then, you said something about bringing the adrenaline of your live shows into your personal life. What is it about music that inspires that sort of energy to carry over into other aspects of life?
I think the huge shift in my life when music arrived, she arrived by the door, was I went back into my body a bit, and I got connected to, everything related to gut feelings, like the how to express them, how to not be scared by them. It helped me also like settle in my body a bit more. There was a sense of like newfound confidence and hope was linked to music as a way to, settle a bit more in my muscles and actually stop fearing the disappearance and not being too much. And so I don't know, there is music is so much about instinct also. For example, the songs that end up on the album, even though I love building words around songs, and so it involves at some point me thinking of it, the songs themselves, the writing, it's something mysterious and actually heavily subconscious. And this is probably the only thing I don't really master or think of in my life, which is a great thing also. There is a sense of abandon. And I think also the erotism of the second album and the looseness and the newfound sensuality has a lot to do with abandon, because I can surrender to the music, and I just learned a bit more how to surrender and how you can be powerful by surrendering. I don't know, there is a sense of,
Yeah, you can hear that, especially in the lead track on the album.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sense of surrender in that song, in sort of a, I don't know, there's a calm confidence to it as well.
Wow.
So you're talking about the lyrics maybe feeling a little more mysterious to you, or you're just kind of channeling them. But this kind of relates to the question I wanted to ask relative to making the album, because you produce the album yourself.
Yeah.
And you really have a strong vision for how you want the presentation of the music to be. So do you consider yourself like a perfectionist?
Yes. But it's not necessarily, But at the same time, music is a way to slightly disrupt that. Because there are many ways to work on perfection, and actually I think we were talking about surrendering, for example. I don't believe that. I think my perfectionism is a bit cured by the live element of music. I think sometimes perfection in music is just like a perfect, sincere interpretation, and not like a pitch perfect or like perfectly mastered. So there is a constant back and forth in between wanting things to be perfect, and at the same time, you know that sometimes reaching perfection is just precisely forgetting about it. So yes, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, there's still that element of the shows and the songs have a life of their own, where they're never in the live element.
Yeah.
Where you're very much in the moment and responding to the moment as it's happening. I've seen that in your shows. So tell me about making the new album. So the first album really probably took over your life for a long period of time, as it was released in France, then in the UK, then worldwide.
Yeah, it was 3 solid years, I think. Yeah.
Did you write during that time, or did you just stop and then sort of start again? And is that sort of how the concept of evolving into Chris happened?
Actually, it was. I started to write a bit during the end of the first tour, but it was a bit scattered and it was a bit like drafts. But I was, for example, a song like "Girlfriend." I wrote it in Oslo because I was actually touring in Oslo at that time, and I was having a really frustrating day about feeling like trapped again in conceptions of what a girl is supposed to be and how she's supposed to behave. And I just wrote that track like really fast, and I was like, oh. And I actually used this really funky energy to write that track, and I was like, that's a hint. This is not something I overthought, but then I was like, that's a possible direction for the second album, and I slowly started to think of Chris also. But people were calling me Chris more and more on tour, and I was strangely empowered by it. So sometimes I go just where I feel good. So Chris made me feel good. I was like, I like people to call me Chris. I like it. Yeah. It feels good.
The music feels great, and there's definitely some touchstones of 80s sounds, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis.
Yep.
I hear a lot of Prince 1999 era, like nice. Dance Music, Sex, Romance, that song, or Controversy era. But you mentioned that the song $5 wasn't in part inspired by Springsteen.
Yeah.
And there musically is maybe a leap there. So I wanted to ask about that inspiration.
I know when I say that, often people are like, yeah, I don't know if maybe it's just me that is making a connection, and that might be okay. But I was listening a lot, actually, to Springsteen at some point when I was writing a record, because I'm obsessed with, one of my best kinks is the perfect melody, how loose and perfect and simple it is. And I think Bruce Springsteen has fantastic melodies that can be really accessible, that can bear a story, but at the same time, they are just limpid like water. There is a sense of, I don't know, the songwriting is so great.
Yeah, it's not struggling with itself.
No, it feels like if we would be translated into dancing, like a perfect gesture that feels really earnest. So I was listening to a lot of Springsteen, and I was like, oh man, I wish I could achieve that sense of, graceful gesture. And I was listening to songs like I'm on Fire and Bobby Jean, and I don't know, and when I wrote $5, it made me, but I don't know if it's obvious, but I was kind of thinking of how you can tell a story that is both really tender and melancholic with a songwriting that can be limpid like that. But I don't know if it's obvious just for me. Yeah. But I was kind of inspired by that.
Yeah, I'm on Fire. I can definitely hear that.
Yeah, it's such a great song.
Do you mind playing $5?
I don't, actually.
Awesome.
I will with pleasure.
Myself carried away. When you get $5, baby blues, $5, baby. Kneeling down for all they get, you let them pay and went ahead. It's still $5, baby blues, $5, baby. $5, baby blues, $5, baby. You're eager and all ashamed. I crave by dying every night, baby. Prove them wrong when you get it. $5. baby blues, $5, baby. Some of us just had to fight for even being looked at bright. Then you get $5, baby blues, $5, baby. Pockets full and dried eyes, it turns me on because it's time not for me. $5, baby blues, $5, baby. Throw me, baby. $5, baby blues, $5, baby. Throw me $5, baby blues, $5, baby. Eager and not ashamed, I grieve by dying every night, baby. Prove them wrong when you get to $5. You're eager and not ashamed, and I don't think the race is over, baby. Prove them wrong when you get done. Oh, baby, you're eager and not ashamed. I grieve by dying every night, baby. Prove them wrong when you get done. Oh, baby, you're eager and not ashamed, and I don't think the race is over, baby. Prove them wrong when you get $5. Lingering on when the kiss getting towards the surface, and of lately the only people I can stare are the unravel ones with their hands laying bare, with their hands are numb and empty. That dull silence soothes me like whispers in my back, as if I couldn't hear. Thought I left close behind, but they just come near. Doesn't matter, does it? If I know any exit, if I believe in God, and if God does exist, if I believe in God, and if God does exist. Touch as a fabric through and through, like that gaze they used to do. Cause the suicidal thoughts that are still in my head, give it that oversight smile when I lay in bed. Doesn't matter, does it? If I know any exit, if I believe in God, and if God does exist, if I believe in God, if God does exist. She's barely feeding, but she denied. Ribbon legged, she passes by until she surrenders in the midst of the street. And the guys simply stare but continue to eat. Doesn't matter, proceed. If I know any exit, if I believe in God, and if God does exist, if I believe in God, if God does exist. Doesn't matter, proceed. If I know any exit, if I believe in God, and if God does exist, if I believe in God, and if God does exist. And if I'm cast out cause I wanted some more, and if this guidance is way too close to the shore, and if I could just push this door choked on the wall, and if after the void there's somewhere else to fall. Forget I said it, I soliloquize. It's stinging the toe, bands on the vines. Run if you stole the sun of sunlight. Don't ever tell them I've got your back. Choking tears with shots of sunlight. Run if you stole the sun of sunlight. Yeah. Run if you stole the sun of sunlight.
It's Chris, live on the afternoon show here on KEXP, 90.3 FM in Seattle, worldwide, KEXP.org. The song Doesn't Matter, $5 right before that. Doesn't Matter, there's kind of an undercurrent of sadness in that song.
Oh, yeah.
and a lot of pain in it as well.
Yeah, it was a bit cathartic to write that one. Actually, I remember very well the state of mind in which I was when I wrote that track, and I was not in a good place. I was sad. But it was interesting also because I did want to exercise that sadness, but I didn't want to just lay in it. I kind of wanted to use it as a fuel. So I was like, what if I started to work actually on a quite aggressive beat with this bass line. And it was so like solid as a bone structure. Mm-hmm. It felt a bit like tough, and I was like, okay, now I can probably be really sad in it. And I was working on the idea of a stream of consciousness that could break at some point and open in like a pure expression of real sadness. But it's weird because there is a weird sense of hope that comes along in the end of the song. And some people I've been talking to, especially people who just listen to the music and really don't pay attention to my lyrics, who were like, oh, this is a beautiful love song. So I was like, that's interesting. But, you know, that's probably the strength of the writing of a song.
Yeah, there's a resignation in the song as well.
Yeah.
You know, your career as an artist so far has been one that's been very transformative for you.
Yeah.
As an individual. Could you talk a little bit about the transformative power of music and maybe how it relates also to listeners? Like, can you put yourself in the place of being a music fan?
Of course. Actually, I mean, even now, like everything I'm kind of doing, it comes from a place of also a music fan. Like, because I remember we were talking at some point about hints of more freedom and hints of something is possible for me also. And I remember having those hints myself, watching some performers like Michael Jackson, like Bowie, like Prince, or like Laurie Anderson, that were just giving me hints of something that was extremely appealing to me. And I think, I mean, for me, when I do think about the transformative power of music, there is an idea that nothing is really... You can reinvent yourself. There is a force of reinvention, especially in pop music, where it's so much about also emphasized theater to recreate yourself or choose your family or rectify something. Or there is a sense of justice in the pop writing sometimes that was really appealing to me. And I'm constantly doing that myself to heal or to reinvent. I mean, and I still do have that relationship to music that feels quite genuine, almost a bit, you know. I mean, it has to be like really cheesy in a way. I need to write a pop song because I need that healing and transformation. And I think it's just pushing a bit further the logic of someone who hears a pop track and it heals also. It can strangely heal.
Yeah, it really does. And I know that from the listener's perspective and your music in particular. And I think it in part because it's very honest and incredibly direct.
Well, that's thank you for saying that to me.
And when you talk about doesn't matter, you know, you working with a lot of sadness, but wanting to move that energy along, not just sing about it, but move it and transform that. I know listeners feel that way about your music, that it's incredibly inspiring and also provides strength and a sense of connection that people need. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm going to blush like my jacket. That's that would be wonderful. I'm trying to relate mostly, so it's good that you say that to me. Thank you.
It is Chris, live on KEXP. Do you mind introducing the band?
I don't. I think they deserve it. So, starting with Jérémy, guitarist and clavierist. Ashley, from the UK, musicien extraordinaire. Carl, doing the bass and the keyboard also, and the bass, from the UK also. And you don't see them, but there is Bastien and Julien who just take care of the sound also.
Thank you all for being here. Mm-hmm. Great session. It is Chris, live on KEXP. Huge thanks to our crew as well. Jim, Justin, Alaia, Jake, Kevin Suggs, David Schilling. Also, thanks to all the listeners and donors who make in studios like this possible. It's KEXP, listener-powered radio. Discover new music at KEXP.org.